So one of the biggest questions that we are constantly trying to answer as we're growing food is what's going to grow well here? And it's a bit of a tricky question because until you've spent several years growing plants and growing food, you don't really know what's going to thrive and what's going to struggle. So our strategy has been to try a lot of different plants, to grow many different varieties and species of vegetables, of fruit trees, of berries, of bushes, and just get a sense over the years what grows well. Also, what is it that we like to eat? And what is it that our community wants to purchase through the farm? And so it's been this real learning experience of figuring out kind of the balance between, what the land can support, what we want to grow, what we like to eat, and what wants to be in this space. And so we've got, nitrogen fixing trees, autumn olives that are helping improve the soil. We've got peas and beans growing in this bed, also fixing nitrogen. This is a whole pollinator garden with a whole bunch of different flowers to attract the different pollinators. And then we've got things like Swiss chard, we've got beets growing, lettuces, green onions, leeks, kale, lots of kales. Native plants mixed in with the planted ones. This is the black-cap raspberry, really prolific berry that grows here. And then this tension inevitably arises in terms of growing food. How intensive and how productive are we trying to be versus how ecologically friendly and how natural do we want the gardens to be? So if you look at the annual garden beds here, you can see that, there's some bare soil and there's not a lot of diversity in terms of the heights and the different layers of plants. Whereas if you look over in the food forest, there's very little bare soil, lots of different species growing at different heights, different sizes. And so this food garden is much more resilient than the annual beds over here, but these gardens are really what most people are familiar with in terms of how to grow food. And they do produce a lot of the food that we eat, the beans and the beets and the onions, the kale, the lettuces. So there's this tension between high productivity and low resilience with lower productivity but higher resilience in all of these different food growing spaces. And so that's a constant balance that we're working with here on the gardens. So now we're coming into our greenhouse. This is probably the most the heart of the growing at Forest Gardens, at least the annual vegetable gardening. And in here is where we grow a lot of the crops that really like those hot, dry, summers, the real heat-loving crops, and things that want a little bit more protection, things that might not do so well in the outside gardens. So in the greenhouse, we've got a lot of our tomatoes, our cucumbers, our eggplants. We've experimented with a lot of semi-tropical plants that might do well in a slightly warmer environment. And so we'll just go for a walk through here and see what we can find. One of the challenges with growing in a greenhouse is the lack of native pollinators and species that can come and help support the plants. And so keeping the sidewalls rolled up in the summertime to allow for those insects to come in, and then also planting things in the greenhouse that are going to attract those pollinators into the garden to help with the pollination of the food crops. Greenhouses tend to get really dry because they don't get any of the rain coming from the sky, and so their water needs are often quite intense. And the soil does differ in that it doesn't get regular moisture other than where the irrigation system is. So things like salts leaching up to the surface become an issue. And so moisture management in the greenhouse is really important. So if you're interested in understanding more deeply how to grow food in healthy and harmonious ways that encourage the diversity of species and the health of the ecosystem, and at the same time produce an abundance of delicious and nutritious food, then encourage you to take a look at the permaculture course that we're going to be offering this season.